fellow Maverick currency traders. It is May 1st, so that means that we have wrapped up April. We're going to be doing the accounting today and sending payouts tomorrow. So April's done, but let's look forward to what's going to go on next month. This market today was a crazy market. We had the FOMC meeting, and we had a lot of volatility. We're going to go in and look at all the intraday moves and just see that by the end of the day, really nothing happened, but boy, intraday, it was nuts. Right after they announced, basically everyone was waiting for a Fed pivot from dovish back to neutral. The market at the first of the year said 3 rate cuts, and then all of a sudden they said, okay, maybe 2. Now it's like very little chance of any rate cuts, and that's basically what the Fed said. We're no longer really looking to cut rates. And then right after that, the Bank of Japan may or may not have intervened. They have not commented. They did not say anything, but there's speculation. We saw the yen spike about 2% off of this. So we got 2 things happening right side by side. FOMC, and then like 30, 40 minutes later, Bank of Japan possibly intervening. It doesn't matter if they intervened or not. The market believed they intervened. And again, yen surged. Those are the big stories today. And you can see we've got the biggest move was dollar yen. So dollar was the biggest move down, and yen was the biggest move up. The yen or the dollar started to sell off right away after the announcement. Look, the announcement made today was technically strong dollar, but the dollar's already been strong. This was probably a case on sell the rumor or buy the rumor, sell the news. I think that's what happened. And then when the yen came about, I think everyone really took the opportunity to sell off dollars some more. I believe dollar is in play on both longs and shorts. I think you can trade dollar each direction. As you can see, other than that, European currencies were mildly weak, and the risk-on currencies, the Aussie Kiwi, basically flat. But remember, flat means they were up against everything but the yen, showing some relative strength in those two. We head over and take a look at the markets. S&P was down 1/3%. At one point, it was up 1%. Look at this chart on the intraday move of the SPX. So here we are. We sold off in the morning. We're down about 1/3%. Boom, we shot higher, and then we completely failed to really leave us where we started. And let's take a look at the bond yields. Bond yields absolutely cratered from 4.6% all the way down into the high 4.5s, and then they rallied back up. Everything had this big move. So shorter term stuff, anyone who had trades working, I know I had a trade working, I tightened up the stop, ended up getting knocked out at a decent gain, but everything other than that, it was just nothing happened by the end of the day. Lots of stuff happening in between. Cryptos got hit, with Bitcoin being the worst of them. Gold shoots higher. Again, the inverse relationship between the dollar and gold. We would expect gold to move higher, oil down, and you can see the cryptos sold off. Bitcoin getting hit the most, now well below 60,000, down around 57,000. But check out Litecoin. We've talked about how Litecoin does not want to go down when everything else is going down. It is showing some relative strength. I've said this before. It's relative strength, but it doesn't make me want to buy it because they're all going down. It's just fighting to hold on to break even. That's not a winning trade. If we take a look at the market, take a look at what we've seen over just the last few days. We have seen this rally all the way up to the moving averages. Yesterday's candle was a nasty, nasty candle. And at one point today was all the way back up to here, all the way back up, and then turned down. This, if you just take out these candles right in here, this is a pretty typical bear rally pattern. We would expect to see some new lows off of this. This is just, again, we have to be bearish as long as we're below the 50-day moving average. And we came up to that 50-day moving average, hit it very hard, and fell back down. Still need to be leaning on that -2. For the rest of the week, we really only have one thing, and that's going to be the payrolls report. The U.S. payrolls report on Friday morning. We'll be sending out a preview video of that. We had a couple questions about people saying about live classes. We found that the preview classes give us better results than doing a class that's happening and then we do some commentary after. we found out that our traders do better on those reports when we sent a preview out before. So we'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. Let's go ahead and take a look at currencies. I'm only going to take a look at a few. I think dollar and yen are the most interesting, and that's really about it. I'm going to take a look at the yen basket first, and I'm going to look at it on a daily chart, but then I want to go to a 4-hour chart. This is the daily chart here on the yen basket, and you can see it has been selling, selling, selling. We've had a really big bounce. When things are really weak and they have big bounces, we are licking our chops because it's saying this is possibly a great shorting opportunity. We came up to that breakdown point. We came off of it. To me, yen looks like a clear sell here. That being said, the Bank of Japan is in the water. They're in the water like a shark. You really have to be very cautious on this. I like playing yen short during the US session and maybe into the early Asian session and then getting out. I don't want to be there when the Bank of Japan is potentially going to be open and in play. So I do like yen short, but the question is I can't hold it and short it for weeks or days. I just don't like the risk here. Moving on to the dollar. You can see that the dollar has been overall strong, but today's candle knocked it down off of its high. At this point, we have to say that is simply in a high base. But if we break below the bottom of this, I've got no problem going short on dollar either. And I also have no problem buying it if it's going to be bouncing off the bottom of this range for it to run up to the top of this range. I got no problem going long or short dollar based on where it is. So look, if we stabilize and bounce in this area, let's buy it and ride it up. If we break down below this area, let's go ahead and go short. I think it's an easy trade both ways. The Swiss franc is weakening. And of all the European currencies, this is clearly my favorite for a short. We are at a support level. I'd love to see a little bounce to be able to short into, but Swiss franc is my favorite short outside of the yen. Euro's going nowhere. Pound fell apart, and now it looked like to break out, and then it's not going anywhere. I'm not going to play that game. Again, I hate when things give me these long upper and lower shadows, and then break down, and then don't follow through, and then break out, and then don't follow through. That just tells me, hey, this is a frustrating trade. People are frustrated with pound right now. Don't be one of those people. Go play somewhere else. CAD is in a range, so I could look to buy CAD at the bottom of this range. As you can see, nothing we've looked at looks great until we get to stuff like Aussie. Looks good. Very nice bull pullback. Pull back to a support line, and we're now getting a bounce. So I do like Aussie long. So we're obviously going to take a look at Aussie yen and Aussie Swiss franc. The Kiwi doesn't really interest me until it really starts showing me that it's going to be better than the Aussie, which it hasn't yet. I'm really just going to be looking at Aussie pairs going forward. Let's do a quick rundown of crypto. Again, you're going to see that there's nothing but downside. Nothing but downside across the board, except for Litecoin. And look, it's just holding on. That's it. Don't even concern yourself with cryptos right now. We need to wait for them to get to a much better spot and for the market to be in a better spot for them. Looking at our currency board scoring, you can see that Aussie is the clear outperformer here. The yen is at a +1, but I'm looking for this to fade. As I said, I want to play yen short, but I want to play yen short during the US session only. Because of that, I want to take a look at Aussie Swiss franc. That's going to be my number one pair. And also, dollar was up at a +2. We're now down to a 0. I think you can short dollar if it breaks down. We'll take a look at that one as well. Let's take a look at Aussie Swiss franc. That is the number one trade I'm looking at. And you can see this daily chart is really nice here. So here we are. We're running up, hitting into some overhead resistance, but we're basing. We're basing here. I really like how this is looking. A breakout above this 60. 60 is going to be the breakout point. I really like this trade here. We've spent 5 days high basing. to me, it looks ready to break out for sure. So I do like Aussie Swiss franc. Can you buy it right here? Yes. If you want to buy it right here, I would take a half a position that way. So if it doesn't break out now and we spend a little bit of time filling into this middle of this range, that you don't get stopped out, that you've got some time to wait on this. But to me, this looks great if you want to wait until it breaks above 59.95, 59.94, somewhere in there. I think that looks great as well. But this to me is the best trade over the next 24 hours. The other one I do want to take a look at is Aussie dollar. I think the dollar is in play on both directions. And you can see here, got that big pullback, came right to this resistance line or support line, and we're getting a move up. I see no reason why we don't get up to at least 65.80. That is roughly 50 pips. That is a decent percentage move on a 65 cent. That's like 0.8%. That is definitely big enough to go after. The momentum looks great here on the long side. We got rising RSI. We got a parabolic star signal. We got EMA turning up. Everything looks really good here. You can go with this one. Whenever there's a question of which is better for the short, dollar or Swiss franc, you pull up the pair and you say, would I be rather long or short this? And you can see I'd rather be long. We're coming down, we're bouncing off this level, so I would expect dollar to bounce up against Swiss franc, which is telling us that Aussie Swiss franc should be the number one trade. So wrapping this up, I want everyone to be very cautious of any yen trades. I think you just need to be very cautious. You can play them, but I like playing them shorter term during US and early Asian sessions. The dollar, I think, is playable both directions. I'm ready to play it. It's got a lot of volatility at the moment. Whenever something has volatility, I'm always more interested than going after something like the pound that has tricked you on every single breakout or breakdown. No thanks. I'll go with something that's actually moving. Aussie Swiss franc, if you take out all the things from +1 and -1 and you take out all the cryptos, you can see that Aussie Swiss franc is really the only trade here over the next little bit. That is the currency recap. Goodbye, everybody.